Hey friends and family, hey, thanks for listening and joining me for my little sharing in alchemy. And this is part 2 from what I've been speaking about on closure and completions and like little life cycles and mirrors as relationships or relationships as mirrors. My dyslexia is showing. There's things like that happen in my brain that just want to flip, and they're just so funny sometimes. But it can be played with in certain ways and in other uncertain ways, to just to be playful and to shake things up and see things in a different way or a different angle, from a different angle, a different side of things. Yeah. So yeah, it is fun to try on different shoes and different lenses and different apertures to see what can come through and what insights can be gleaned, and like followed through with, like, just curiosity, little nuggets, like a little trail sometimes, like that wasn't there before and like comes out of nowhere. So just like being willing to like what I wanted to say was like flip the dime, but I don't know if that's correct. We'll just go with that though. To flip on a dime, like sometimes like not get so rigid in our everyday processes or what we're used to or our ordinary patterns. Like sometimes it is interesting, like, to flip it on its head and flip the script and turn it around and hang upside down and suspend like the things that we think we know or what we're used to or the way we do things, like those rigid ways that we just get comfortable with, familiar with, like our comfort zones and things. And so just going with the flow here, wanting to express and share some certain things because of breakthroughs, like some breakdowns, some bleed throughs, some leak throughs, like different projections and different aspects coming to the surface, forgotten, abandoned parts of the self and of the whole, like that want to come forward now and be included in the whole, for the integrity and the well-being and the benefit of all. And so just doing my little part here, by looking at my parts within my wholeness. So it is serious, but it's funny too. So gotta let go of some of that fear of being seen as a fool and just playing that fool and being that fool and embracing that role, of not knowing and innocence and willingness and adventure. What could it be? Like, what is it? We could name it, but what else could it be? What else is it showing us, or what else could be playing, like, or at play here? So what I have been working through and focusing on and paying attention to is certain triggers and certain wounds and certain dynamics that no longer serve me or work for me, that leak and siphon and dishonor my energy and others in relationship with me, and how to shift that within myself and be complete with some of these lessons and some of these cycles that have really contributed to me knowing myself. And so I even though some of them were painful and really uncomfortable and undesirable, or seemingly unwanted experiences, it was happening for me. It wasn't happening to me, and it was happening through me. And it was happening for me to awaken to some of these parts that I had been unconscious of, asleep to, in ignorance of, And so, yeah, some of these multi-generational patterns and different themes, and some of them are just, from a family, but some of them are cultural. Some of them are universal. Yeah, I feel like all of them could be relatable, are relatable. Yeah, because they happen through relationships. And so, like, it is the best mirror for us to see and to know and to be and to free ourselves. Like, yeah, looking at these things within, like, that gift and that container of relationship can teach us so many things about ourselves. It's the teacher. And so, yeah, I wanted to share some of these things from my journal, and then some of the books and the authors and teachers that have really contributed to my journey and my learning and my discovery and my understanding of, like, myself and how the relationships that I've had with myself and with others. Yeah. So what I've been looking into is inferiority and superiority complexes, because, like, I've really noticed that, like, that's how the divide and conquer games of competition for dominance are played, and how they keep us in a locked battle and a power struggle, always on the wheel, because what comes up must always come down. And so it's like that cycle that we've been trapped in, of elation and outrage, and it's very addictive. And a lot of that too has to do with self-righteousness and pride and fear. And so, like, yeah, we want to escape the fear, but the pride sometimes feels pretty good. And I feel like when I felt that too, I've been a little bit embarrassed about it. Kind of like that voice in the back of my head that says, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? And then there is also this really fun, playful song and message and, like, part of myself that was coming through, or maybe a guide that works with music, or maybe my higher self even, because I get to get more literate with my energetic allies and, familiars and whatnot. But the song was coming through, and it was a playful, like, kind of just to help me remember, who do you think you are? Like, really, like, not like a harsh, but just a playful, friendly reminder. And then it went like, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are, Chip? That's right. Who do you think you are? Now, right. And just, like, different words that would come in, like, and just say, you're funny, and it'd just be like, who do you think you are? Like, and if I was feeling sassy, it'd be, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are, bitch balls? Who do you think you are? That's right, And it's just like, and, who do you think you are, baby? Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are, child? Who do you think you are? And it's just, like, all about, like, the dismantling and the deconstructing of, like, the false self and the ego, and, like, the attachment to the image that we thought we were, that we wanted to be, or that we thought we should be, or we needed to be enough, to be worthy, to be whatever it was for our belonging, security, safety, like, being held securely in a relationship, like organized attachment, which is healthy. Yeah, versus, like, the models of disorganized attachment, or fearful attachment, anxious attachment, dismissive, avoidance, all of that. So, looking into that a lot for myself, and how that's played out in my life and through my family system. And, different reflections. So relationships as mirrors and painful reflections and connections. Some wound mates, harsh teachers, abusive companions and manipulators, mind polluters, sowers of mistrust and self-doubt, gaslighters, tormentors, colluders, saboteurs, tricksters, mimics, imposters, frauds, and actors. Two-faced, Jekyll and Hyde. and like trauma persona switches, or are they mask slipping? Oops. Consistent patterns don't lie, they just hide or are concealed to the untrained eye. So just like watching the patterns, because like those patterns can be observed in so many different ways, and it's up to us to look into them, like in the ways that we're able to, and like it might look different to me, like an archetype, but they're all like related, and they all contain and they all hold each other in certain ways. So, and they're all connected to each other. So one doesn't exist unto itself. It's all related to all other parts. And so they all do a dance and a play together. And so it's, if there's like overcompensating parts, there's like deficiencies in other parts of the energy body or the dream body or the psyche, and the maybe conscious operator. Like, it's funny, I can see certain things in my mind, but sometimes I don't have the words. And so in a lot of ways, it is easier to write certain things down because the thoughts become more clear and coherent, and can articulate like some of these concepts in their complexity and simplicity. So it is funny. But yeah, just trying to free flow and talk about certain things I overthink in a lot of ways because of the justify, argue, defend, and explain. And like, ooh, how do I say this? And so just getting used to like, maybe it not sounding right, or like how, telling myself that it has to sound a certain way, or it has to has to be explained or received in an appropriate way, or in ways that that I think other people will get, but maybe they won't, because that's just an assumption on my part. And so it is a whole lot of wasted energy too, like trying to make certain things fit for someone else, when maybe I could just talk and say how it fits for me, and or how I perceive it anyways, like in some ways, looking through different lenses and different angles and different spaces. So now we're all confused. let's begin. Anyways, interesting things working through these old family and personal patternings, and I have recognized some distortions and inherited implanted imprintings around grandiosity and over and undervaluing positive and negative qualities and traits, over and underestimating strengths, gifts, weaknesses, undeveloped potential, and fears of making mistakes, and being wrong or just needing to be right at all costs, and not realizing the true cost of that rigid and miserly bargaining, and that mindset, borrowed belief, and limiting construct. Sheesh. Oh, child, please. Get over yourselves already. LOL, it's so absurd how we think we fucking know everything or anything, really. So how we think we know about anything or anyone or any one thing at all. So arrogant and pompous, grandiose, self-congratulatory thinking and wishful believing, convenient stories, myths, scripts, assumptions, and make-believe. Manifestations and complexes that repeat until we reclaim and reframe and shift them from within our own psyche or alchemical vessel, inner vision, and our true self. So bleed throughs from the past and shadow aspects to gather, retrieve, unify, welcome, care for, integrate, nurture, value, and make space for. To own, acknowledge, master, transform, purify, honor, allow, accept, respect, trust, receive, reclaim, and embody. Remember. Remembering and remembrance of the wholeness that we are. Making space for that. Because we block ourselves in a lot of ways from our shoulds and should not be's. Yeah. From accessing like the fullness of our power, our energy, our creativity and our ability, like, to care and to create what we want for ourselves that actually nourish and support and honor the whole of that we're a part of, all of that. And so, the Purella is coming up too, like, or the Epicure, that part of myself that didn't want to grow up and be an adult, or take on those certain responsibilities that adults are expected to take on, because I never wanted to, like, it was kind of a resistance to the system, to uphold the status quo, and just the sake of doing things just because this is the way we've always done things and this is the way it works. That's always left a bad taste in my mouth. And I because of my own needs and sensory abilities, hypersensitivity, and sometimes too much sensory input or too much processing going on, it has been, like, a little challenging and difficult for me to be in relationship with others and not abandon myself. There's so much going on that I was picking up on, so much coming in, so much information, that, like, sometimes after an encounter or an interaction with someone, and a loved one or someone in relationship with me, I wouldn't really know how I felt about anything until I was able to be alone and process what had happened, like all of these different things, the back and forth, the what was said, what was felt, all of these things, like, to put it all, like, together in a picture that I could, like, feel into and understand. It would take me, like, sometimes a day or a week or so, like, to process, to understand how I felt sometimes, like, about all of these things, like, what do I do with all of this, and it would be really confusing in a lot of ways. So sometimes, like, I would just wear a mask or put on a persona of what the other person wanted and just, like, go and agree, or, like, some parts of me, some of the shadow aspects would emerge when it was, like, to protect myself, would, like, kind of get irritated or angry, but I would, like, shove that down a little bit, and I shouldn't feel angry. Feeling, like, a secondary emotion of guilt when feeling, like, a little bit of anger or resentment. I shouldn't feel that way. Why am I feeling that way? And, like, making excuses for, like, the other person always, but never giving myself, like, leeway or allowance for my, like, struggles or my challenges or my shortcomings or my needs, like, a lot of self-abandoning. And so, like, that was connected to my masculine energy, like, that I kind of discarded because I couldn't assert myself. I don't want to dominate anyone, like, for reals. That's really distasteful to me. It's like my spirit wants to live and let live, and just, like, be expansive and just enjoy things. And doesn't everybody know how to treat people? Doesn't everybody know the golden rule? Like, what's going on here with some of these things and dysfunctional roles? And so, it just confused me a lot. Like, why do we do the things we do? Like, what makes a person do what they do, or makes them who they are, or what causes all these things to happen, like. And so that, obviously, like, in high school, my favorite class that I would show up to was psychology, because the teacher was really cool, and it was, like, so fascinating, like, and just the way that, she held space for the classroom and the topic, and, like, the students in her class, and all of that. Like, she treated us like we were equals too, and that was kind of not usual, like, for an authority figure, or that kind of relationship dynamic, to be, like, to feel that way. So it was like she valued us, like, just as much as she valued what she loved. And it was just like she brought that energy to the classroom. And so when I wouldn't go to any of my other classes, I would show up for that one. funny enough, like before I dropped out of school, because I just could not handle like the dynamics and how I felt, and how I felt like it was siphoning and sucking my energy, and it was pointless, and it was like, oh, I could see just like all the bullshit and the things that weren't true about a lot of things, and the things that didn't feel good, and like just how sick like parts of me felt, like having to go and forcing myself to exist in that environment that wasn't supportive of what I needed. And yeah, just looking back at what school has been for me. I mean, because I always love to learn and I'm really curious and things, but like it really shut down a lot of things for me because of, yeah, some of the experiences that I had in school, and like with bullies, and also with predatory programs, and some of the grooming that happened in elementary school in Las Vegas, and then also like being in a gifted program where there's certain memories that I have blocked out from myself. Like I can only remember little snippets and pieces of like third and fourth grade and maybe fifth grade, being in that GATE program, gifted and talented education programming, where they would take us out of class and we would go to another class, or a like a trailer or some part or other classroom with maybe a couple of other kids, or sometimes just by myself. And I think I remember like one friend and maybe my twin sister being in some of those classes with me. But like I remember being terrified. Something happened that I was so traumatized by it, I don't even remember. But I remember going home that day and trying like to find a way to defend myself, to protect myself. Like never wanted to go back to school ever again. Like, and I just like was feeling so sick and so anxious and everything that I made myself sick so I could stay home, so I wouldn't have to go back to school. And my mom, of course, didn't allow me that break that I needed, and just thought I was faking it, because like, yeah, some of me was faking like physical, but I actually felt like really sick, and I was so emotionally sick and like kind of soul sick that it did lead through to the physical. And I mean, that wasn't the first time that had happened in grade school, and and having that anxiety and like certain panic attacks where I felt sick, where I'd get a stomach ache, nauseated, throw up, or have sweaty palms, and just having a hard time breathing and different things. Like that happened to me too as well when I was worried about my mom when she was in serious like health conditions while she was giving birth to my youngest sister. She'd had problems with her lungs and complications during that pregnancy, but she decided, she was going to have the baby because, children are a gift, and that's what she wanted, was to bring, that spirit into this life, because she felt like that was a spiritual calling, and, something that she was called to do by God and all of that. And me and my twin were, let's see, about 11 or so, and we're the oldest, and of course, like, we were excited for a baby sister, and we're excited for our mom, but she told us there was a possibility she might die, like, in giving birth to the child. And so it was like mixed feelings, like, oh my gosh, probably gonna lose my mom, so it was like a lot for an 11-year-old to kind of handle in a lot of ways. They wanted to tell us the truth of the situation and what was going on and what the risks were and everything, and what was, what might possibly be at stake. But that was like terrifying to believe that my mom might leave me. And Yeah. It was very terrifying and excruciating and very worrying to know that she could be taken away from me. And I really needed that nurturing, and I needed my mother, in the ways that she was able to show up for me, and that she could share that love and care with me. And she did love us. She loved us with everything she had, but she had her own wounds and her own unresolved pain and inner conflicts and battles inside. And she just did, what she thought was right. What was right for us, and what was right, like, in general. And so sometimes those things, the road to hell can be paved with the best intentions, and we don't know the harm that we've done. And so it is hard to come to terms with certain things where we did mean the best, but we caused the worst, or it didn't translate, like, our intentions, didn't quite create what we were hoping for in certain ways. And so that's hard to take accountability for in certain ways, especially when we didn't mean any harm, And so that's been a theme that I had to take into account for myself, like, where I didn't want to be my mother, like, for my children, for my child. And so I overcorrected and overcompensated, and I was a little misdirected in my own parenting styles and things, and like, where I wanted to be more of a friend than a bully or a authority. And I also, in certain ways, was emotionally unavailable, and I didn't realize that I also parentified my own daughter in certain ways. And then I saw some different things about how I kind of put things on her that were a little bit too much for her at certain ages, and expected, her to emotionally care for me in certain ways because her dad wasn't able to. And I was just like, seeing that term, like, emotional incest a couple years ago, and then just like a face palm to the head, and just like, oh shit, like, what have I done? Like, what harm did I cause unknowingly and in ignorance? Some of these things, like, wow, the bargain without knowing, and the harm done without knowing, errors made in ignorance. And then, like, oh, how, like, I didn't mean, like, for these bleed throughs to happen, but, like, it was just kind of out of my control in certain ways, through shadow behaviors and different dynamics, and the fear desire cycle. And so that really hurt a lot, like, to confront and to address, like, to see how I caused harm to the one that I love the most. My dear one. My golden, shining sun and stars. Yeah. My greatest gift that was given to me to help me know myself, and so that she could be herself. And she's such a beautiful mother, and I love and adore who she is and who she's becoming and who she's always been. And I could do that for myself too, and forgive myself, and allow myself, and accept myself, and take accountability for the harm done without knowing. And so, just clearing these parental wounds and these core wounds of abandonment and rejection and betrayal, and the inferior superior measuring stick, and the persecution complex, the witch wound, the father wound, and the mother wound, the core wounds. So where my energy has been trapped has been in the Purella, and also in the Know-It-All. And not that I try to make others inferior or anything, but there is that element there which has been coming up and causing me pain and havoc, because I don't want to feel that way about people, like, but it's just been so frustrating in certain ways because of the seemingly dangerous threats of you know, to security and safety and whatnot, and just like the way that people can be influenced to believe that certain things are happening, and so it affects their ways of operating and how they're stuck in survival strategies or unconscious behaviors, trauma responses and things. And then the response to fix things or whatever sometimes compounds things and makes things worse, like the doubling down on things and already investing in something and needing it to be this certain way, and pouring all the energy and the attention and the sense of self or the identity into whatever that is that's going to be the salvation or societal liberation or the right thing to do, or it sometimes blows up in our faces, with unforeseen consequences and limitations, like because of the place we were operating from, in an all or nothing kind of thing. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but we'll just go with it. and work through that. And so yes, the Purella and the persecution complex. Oh yeah, not wanting to be seen, but at the same time wanting so badly to be seen, just not seen in a certain light. Yeah, for safety and security reasons, and for not attracting attention or certain kinds of attention to myself, because that would cause a lot of shame and pain and resentment. So it all stems from the wounded healer and the wounded child and the maiden, subformative years, and the misfit, the heretic, and the thrill seeker, the scapegoat and the rebel and the good girl, the whore, the addict, the prude, the exile and the orphan, the victim, the caregiver, the advocate, the people pleaser, the mediator, the peacemaker, fawning behaviors, performances, disarming my abuser, and fawning and complying and pleasing, but also sabotaging. And then the rescuer, persecutor, and villain. This cycle of having to fix everything. Like, oh no, they're mad at me. What did I do? Oh, I better fix that. I better like overcompensate for what, and then just using all that energy to give and okay, make things all right. Okay, they see me as okay in their mind now. Okay, now. And then there's like all this residual guilt, shame, resentment, pride, and fear, like underneath everything else. Looking for love in all the wrong places, like with betrayal, rejection themes, neglect, violation, coercion, being pressured, being programmed, conditioned, invalidated, erased, subjugated, colonized, commodified, and hoard. Yeah. Betraying myself for getting and forgetting, like getting my needs met, or at least the bare minimum, like emotional neglect. It was like pulling teeth to get like the bare minimum of what I really needed in some certain ways. Like my family was loving and giving and everything, but they had their own shit that they were sweeping under the rug and hiding from themselves, and through their own blind sides and their own agendas. So these bleed throughs from the past and the shadow aspects, they're coming up to be gathered, retrieved, and unified and reweaved, welcomed, cared for, integrated, nurtured, valued, and made space for, to own, to master, to transform, to purify, to honor, to respect, trust, receive, reclaim, embody, and remember. And so core abandonment wounds and being blamed for mistreatment and abuse and for needing the care that I deserved. I was made to feel guilty for that. Like, how dare you have needs? Who do you think you are? Like, don't you see? You're not very important. And so there's that self-pity aspect and that need to be self-important. And in order to belong in this little group or this family unit or this structure, I've got to make myself like needed or necessary or essential in some form. Wanted, needed, acceptable, desired. Yeah. So looking for love in all the wrong places. So yeah, obviously, since I wasn't getting certain needs met through like family relationships or through nurturing dynamics that were attuned to my needs, how can we attune to someone else's needs when we're not really attuned to ourselves or our center of self or our true self? If we're disconnected from that, but not looking for perfection, because that is silly and that's a program and a distortion of some things. It's just looking for authenticity and presence and true empathy to seek to understand, rather than be the hero or be right or be worthy or enough or any of those things. Like, we are enough, we are plenty. It's just we've rejected these parts of ourselves and overcompensated in other ways, to make up for what we thought or what we perceived was lacking. And so it has been a big imbalance, because where we were creating from was from a place of imbalance and separation and fragmentation, and not wholeness and like rooted and connected, interconnected from the inside. And so some of these things have taught me a lot about how I dimmed and shrunk or overcompensated in my own life, in my own mind, in my relationships. And like, because of the guilt that I felt and the shame that I felt, like that everything was my fault, or that I just needed to be better or work harder. and then everything eventually would fall into place and all things would be harmonious. Yeah, just try harder, keep trying, efforting, all those things. And trying to please other people and be who they wanted me to be. Yeah, that was my strategy. It was just like so funny in a lot of ways, pretending and kind of like half joking, like, who do you want me to be? Like, but it was in a certain way, that was my MO, to be the chameleon, to take on the form or as close as I could to what the other one desired or needed or expected or required of me. Yeah. For me to be received and taken care of. And my first husband, he was very smart. He traditionally, like the IQ test, that measures, I don't know, like how we get those false metrics and things like to measure intelligence. But like for that system that we do have, like of IQ and whatnot, he scored very, very high in genius level IQ, and he was pretty intelligent and smart, and he could, he was a good student or whatever, but like there was a lot of limitations to him, like knowing that he was smart, because he would overestimate certain things or undervalue other things, and also like be a pompous asshole sometimes, because there is a certain maybe inferiority complex playing out in his family dynamics and different things. And so using that like genius level IQ as a badge of honor and a little stamp of approval and like kind of identification, like a status, you know, like for his own identity and value, like to measure his own value and his own worth and everything. But he liked to put other people down and show them how dumb that they actually were and how smart he was. And he did this to me all the time, like did this with me, this little dance of just berating and belittling and putting me in my place and asserting his dominance and his position of authority and superiority. And so I kind of had forgotten all about that. Like, where in my last video 5 days ago, I was talking about like, the dynamics that I was feeling into with my dad and my sister, about this inferiority, superiority, and this need to be right, and this prideful identification with being like intellectually superior and all these things. And they're properly informed, and you know, they already know it all. So it's like useless. How can you talk to anyone or share anything or like really teach anything or like collaborate with anyone if they already know everything about everything, you know? It's very arrogant and rigid and closed-minded coming from that place where they don't realize what they're shutting themselves from receiving or seeing, like if they were able to let go, you know. But I feel like it is clinging because of the fear and pride and the energy that has been invested, and the attachments and the identification, the false the false identity, or them identifying themselves with things outside of themselves, has really trapped them in like an echo chamber and frozen feedback loop, and always needing to reinforce, and then going from elation to outrage and all that. And we all have been in certain ways. I've observed that. But I mean, what about y'all? What have you seen? Like, have you seen some of these things playing out? Like some of these patterns and these mechanisms that kind of put us in a straitjacket? And it's insanity in a lot of ways. So it's just like, wow, do we feel that terrible about ourselves, or like have that shame-based identity in certain ways that we even hide from ourselves, and it's cloaked in something else, you know? And that's what I see as that pendulum swing of the inferior and superior, back and forth, push and pull, shove, and manipulate, for power struggles and whatnot. But I was gonna just share that, it didn't matter like what he was arguing about. It was like what the main goal was to win and to make the other person wrong. And that's what I feel like I've been trapped in for so long, is to defend like my own life and my own rightness, you know. And also feeling addicted to self-righteous rage the last couple years, but actually like kind of tempering that, especially the last 6 months, and letting that like dissolve and be transformed and transmuted, like turning the poison into nectar, like through that rage, you know, that was trapped in that frozen, recycled lake, you know, in that dream of mine with the bicycle frozen and stuck in it. It's the fear desire cycle. And what my recent dream like 2 days ago, you know, brought up for me all of these things, because I had forgotten like a lot of the painful dynamics that, like, it's been quite a while since I've been in that kind of a thing, but like there is still bleed throughs happening and coloring my lenses of, you know, the relationship dynamics that are playing out, or I'm kind of participating in currently, in energetically and psychically, psychologically, and emotionally, mentally. Like, yeah, just different things that, like, with rumination and replaying old scripts and replaying old interactions in my mind as if they're still happening, because that's the only way to be in connection with the other, is through that inner conflict in my own mind. And like just observing that, observing the stories that come up, observing the hypothetical replays, you know, that a lot of it is mental, and it is in our mind, and we make it true for ourselves, and we reinforce it because we believe it, and then we see it, or we see it and then we believe it and we see more of it. And so it's like, it is an interesting thing once we agree to something, or once we believe or we think we know something, it's like we'll see it everywhere, and we can confirm it for ourselves, or, you know, yep, I'm right. And so that's the most important thing, is to be right and make the other person wrong. Like, yeah, really seeing into how, you know, these things can run through us or run us without our awareness and our full choice sometimes. But we've already chosen and agreed to it in certain ways, like unconsciously. So we're making that conscious so we can shift things and repattern things. And so it is like this old paradigm of domination and control, and like being the dominant one, and this competition for dominance, because it was horizontal, like through these horizontal relationships, not because it's like the false identity, the false self that is disconnected, that is separate, and it's based on that, you know. And so yeah, the superiority thing, really, he had to be that with the highest intellect and the highest value and authorship. He was the only one with the say-so, the credibility, the reliability, you know, to make those claims. He didn't even care about what he was arguing about, or if it was even true, or if he even believed it to be personally true. None of that mattered. Only one thing mattered, because he even confessed that to me. Like at one point, one night while he was drinking, he's like, I don't even really care. I just do it because I can. And I was just like, why would you even do that? Like, that never even occurred to me. Why would you put so much energy into playing those kinds of games with somebody, especially somebody that you profess to care about? Like, yeah, this is like pretty twisted to me. Like chipping away at me and making me wrong and humiliating me, like getting off on that, getting leverage and using things against me later, making himself dominant, better, and, you know, the one that was right, the one with authority. He was smarter, more powerful, more strategically clever, and he was all around better morally and logically. And so he would make fun of me and he would mock me, and like, for the things that I was interested in. And we were so different. We were like opposite sides of the spectrum, and those things became apparent and caused irreconcilable differences later in the relationship, where it was just so toxic, and I was so full of resentment because, yeah, there were certain things that, like, you know, we agreed to, and it just wasn't, yeah. It was so superficial and so duplicitous and so dysfunctional, and just not what it appeared to be, or even what we tried to make it be. It was so abusive and very hurtful, and we both did things that hurt each other, and yeah, we both couldn't see through our own wounding and our blind spots and our fears and our desires. And then there was, like, with alcohol thrown in there, for years and years of binge drinking and alcoholism and escapism, and then like how that distorts thinking and all those things that bleed through, yeah, from the past, that, like, and the violence that kind of comes up from when those spirits take over. Very, very, very painfully abusive chapters in my life that I was, that I'm complete with and I'm done with, and that I had forgiven him for, and that it came back around for me to say, yeah, I'm sorry that I hurt you too, and I'm sorry, that I didn't respond like with love, like to all those things. Like at the time I didn't know, like I did the best I could with where I was at that time. And it taught me a lot though too about what I really want and what I am worthy of and what I will settle for, or what my boundaries are, what I will not tolerate, what I will not accept as far as disrespect and dishonesty and deception and power over. Some of the bleed throughs from the past that I'm complete with and I choose to forgive and let go of for the greatest well-being, healing, and remembering of all that is really true. I realize that we all had to go through and play out these dysfunctional, multi-generational, falsely modeled and constructed patterns of self-abuse, betrayal, abandonment, dismemberment, self-denial, shame-based exile, imprinted and implanted traumatic mythologies, being a burden, being wrong to be, wrong for being, shame-based identities, false guilt for objecting to the regularly scheduled programming, resisting and rebelling, the dysfunctional roles and games in the toxic family and the unhealed unconscious system, the inherited through centuries of abuse and heinous crimes against humanity, the sacred feminine, God's beloved children. I choose to let go of the need for others to see me as smart, qualified, worthy, gifted, intelligent, worth listening to, wise and in the know, in the flow, attuned to the natural, organic rhythms of the universe and the cycles and patterns of the world's soul, creation, the goddess, mother, lover, child. I will allow and I'll surrender the need to be seen as a great communicator, LOL, and someone worth taking seriously and listening to, following or idealizing or pedestalizing until the time comes when the wheel turns and then I'm villainized and sacrificed and scapegoated and dismembered and discarded and disavowed, devalued, blamed, and in drama triangles, fashion, and style. I choose to forgive, I choose to forgo, I choose to forbear, I choose to surrender, I choose to clear, I choose to let go, I choose to be one here, at peace with all I am, and I choose wholeness and sacred union with my soul. Amen. Spirit and soul. No one has to see me. They cannot really. Anyways, I'll just be myself in and through all ways. And they will and shall all see what they need or they choose to see. So all that pressure is no longer needed, and I'm free to be freely me, who I am and who I am becoming. Deep, deep, deep breathing, deep breath, deep breathing, deep surrendering and deep releasing, deep receiving. So leave the cleverness to the trickster and the fools. Just be open and don't be too sure about anything really. But I know that I am that I am, that I am that I am, and I know that I am that I am. I am love, that I am. I know that I am. That I am, yes I am. I am all this love, that I know that I am. Yes I am. The love, all this love, that I know that I am. And I am all this love, that I am that I am. Interesting clearings and wounding healer themes surfacing. All of this astrology. Saturn, Venus, Neptune, Pluto, Mars, Uranus, Mercury, Eris, Chiron, Medusa, Monoceros, Sedna, Ceres, and influences, centered, grounded, committed, completion and alignment, growth and mastery, sassy sparks of raw honesty and sincerity, love and wisdom, greater vision and clarity, devotion, patience, and appraisal, expanded sense of self and wider perspectives, true humility, and deeper self-compassion, radical acceptance, courage, tenacity, renewal, reformation, recapitulation, self-respect, trust, inspiration, satisfaction, like personal satisfaction, and seeing with new eyes, seeing all that is right, seeing things as they are and all the great things they already are and shall be, shall become, and are always becoming. I am always arriving. I am always growing. I am always discovering. I am always with me in all the changing forms through this mystery, so that this huge potent dream got me going on some of these things about and around bleed throughs from the past, and closing old doors and clearing space and completing old lessons and exiting old cycles, old doors, upgrading and integrating, supporting the new cycles through surrendering the old. And thanking the old for what they've shown me and how they served me and how they helped me to know me. So we're transcending some and alchemizing, transmuting, transforming, correcting, recalibrating, reorganizing, renewing, regenerating, reevaluating, revaluing, appreciating, recognizing, remembering, rewiring, repurposing, redirecting, honoring, remastering, recreating, reclaiming, renaming, reforming, and remembering. Some of these things, some of these patterns, and some of these, parts of ourselves, repurposing, redirecting, reclaiming, making space. Are we living authentically, true to who we are, or are we living lies, doubly lying to ourselves? Funny and awesome, all these funny things around false living, myths, stories, patterns, archetypes, roles, constructs, identities, beliefs, and ways of being. No wonder so many are deeply clinging and holding on for dear life, or what they perceive as a life raft or a solid wave board. LOL. The river of life is freely flowing, and nothing can stop the momentum of the rapidly changing tides. This is the turn of the unified tide from the inside to the outside, from within. I'm ready to surrender, and I'm so, oh, funny. That looked like SOS, grateful. Very thankful that I finally heard my own cries for help, for love, validation, care, intimacy, approval, attention, affection, consideration, value and worth, inherent appraisal, acceptance, nurturance, loyalty, embodiment, honesty, generosity, reciprocity, remembrance, devotion, respect. Dynamic communication, listening, trust, and clairs. And letting go of others' expectations, baggage, wounds, beliefs, needs, agendas, misperceptions, projections, shadows, blind sides, imperfections, errors made in ignorance, garbage, interjections, and complexes, miasmas, their choices, their vices, their dilemmas. They're unsustainable, like in this false sense of dependence, like that's been engineered, like, with the codependent narcissism. It's collapsing because it's aligned with the false systems of separation. And so, just kind of stepping back and detaching from that, the codependence and exploitation of the dismembered hand in hand, those two hands that are dismembered holding on. It's just like, we can let that go now. And because it's an unsustainable system, and it's forgetting, the bargain without knowing. And, when the energy stalls and starts moving, springtime visions, and an old dream from a few years ago that foretold of new beginnings and new life in the springtime, new life and rebirth, the end of frozen cycles or bicycle loops around the same pond of forgetting. So interesting. I will look for the dream and entry and then the psychic contents to inquire, review, and investigate the following what comes. How do you solve a problem like Maria? LOL. How do you unlock the mystery of someone so invested and attached to excessive secrecy and power over, as in neurotic, covertly controlling and manipulative behavior, self-righteous judgmental perfectionism, and hypercritical defense mechanisms, neurotic projections and deflection, and unable to claim accountability or admit errors made and compounded, doubled down on in ignorance, fear, pride, vanity, lack, disease, and greed. Ooh. Jealousy, envy, spite, vengeance, resentment, contempt, and inferiority. Mother superior, know-it-all, me. Valued and secure in the golden child role, and superior good girl intellectual identity. But such a hyper-compulsive liar, manipulator, strategist, storyteller, teetotaler, scorekeeper, gatekeeper, truth-teller, triangulator, saboteur, covert narcissist, codependent, epicure, overachiever, workaholic, and value attached to status, workload, martyr, miser, self-importance, and overinflated compensation, and minimizing and canceling out one's own choices, actions, behaviors, beliefs, agreements that have caused harm to the self and others in relationship and connection with them. Over-idealization and projection, objectification, introjection, internalization, distortion, and tangled web of lies and illusion, self-ties, attachments, pedestalized false images. Or we've over-identified real lies with real lies. Please let go and realize with real lies. True empathy. Please empathize. Alchemize. all those untrue stories that reinforce the familiar and known. Just let go. Don't be so sure about anything. Impotence, incompetence, how can you teach or share anything new with someone who already knows it all? There is no room to do so. There is no space for learning, growing, or change. Maybe they just are stuck and frozen, trapped in a web of their own making, self-made trickery and deceptions. Yeah, the nightmare. I feel it will be quite painful for them to look at into, or to reconcile for themselves. There's feral, wobbly, wonky, joyful, and wild, unraveling, energies, and feeling awkward into the awkwardness of the ugly duckling energy, the uncertainty and the extra anxiety and the unveiling, like the huge potent energies and aspects and breakthroughs that are possible and happening right now, are always arriving. So attention and awareness, be mindful, a mindful witness with care, and please, just free yourself to be love for you, for the love that you need. Letting go and surrendering and forgiving and accepting the fears of being seen, the fears of not being seen, or being seen in an unforgiving or unhospitable, judgmentally distorted light. Letting the masks go and fall away, the worn out clothes, and puts on new ones, a true and souled identity, remembrance, and reforming. Meeting fears and crossing bridges, building dams, gates and fences, doors and windows, portals, entry and exit points, time and life cycles to learn, grow, and manifest within, to transform and create and be. Be one in. The completion, just bringing to our attention that, this Pisces energy, there's no walls and no boundaries, so there is possible leak-throughs, bleed-throughs, and blendings, that's going to come up for our attention to notice, infringing on our ability to close out and complete these old cycles sometimes until we notice and we can attend to that, to what is at hand. So fully declare, I am moving forward. It's Saturn. It's serious, bitches. So I am finished. It is done. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Self-valuing and self-sustaining. Self-worth. For the greatest and highest good, growth and well-being and the wholeness of all. The transition to the next level, radical honesty with ourselves, our true self, it's self-sustainable, the value, the worth, and the trust, the independence, the freedom, the accountability, and then the new directions that are possible and accessible, where they haven't been before. So new doors are opening, and sometimes old doors that have closed, there's still a little gap or a little opening there. So we can be done with it. We can say, thank you, I am finished with this, and I am done, and I'm ready to be complete, and move on, to the next, or to what is here now for me fully, to be with this, and allow that, that past to be integrated and completed, which Alligator in medicine cards has come up, and I'll just read one little blurb before my phone dies. Alligator Integration by Jamie Sams and David Carson. Medicine cards. Love this. Alligator, let me drop my judgments, accepting life with grace, so that forlorn care and worry will vanish from my face. Let me integrate each moment, digesting life with ease, counting all my experiences as equal opportunities. The powerful gift of alligator medicine is to fully appreciate and integrate all that life offers. Gator shows us the value of thoroughly digesting both the pleasures and pains in life. In many ways, alligator's medicine is reflected in its behavior. When Gator rolls under the water with its prey, its message is to roll with the punches when being attacked by life's circumstances. Carefully storing its prey under a log until the meat is tender teaches us about patience and proper timing. Choosing to laugh when tangled in your own seriousness can immediately diffuse the stranglehold of anger and judgments, self-importance, and inflexibility. Once your rigidity is removed, you are free to again integrate the present set of circumstances, finding what you may have formerly overlooked. Then you can learn Gator's lessons on how to digest the value of any life lesson. Gator medicine people refrain from passing judgment until they have examined all the facts and seen all sides of any situation. It may be time to drop opinions and judgments so that the present situation can be fully understood. Gator might have surfaced in the river of your life to tell you to digest the situation at hand before making any rash moves. You could also be dealing with someone who is way too serious or rigid. If this is the case, embrace your flexibility, knowing that you are expanding beyond your former limits, even if others are wallowing in their self-created quicksand. Have you been rushing through life and not taking the time to count your victories or to digest your rites of passage? If so, it could be time to honor your progress, mindful that quick fix solutions do not support long-term goals. Avoid getting stuck in the duality and quagmire of the human judgment game. Use calm. Calm resolve. Review your healing process and life lessons, integrating the growth you have attained. In all cases, Gator is telling you that something may have escaped your perception. Ask yourself what viewpoint or possibility did not get factored into your assessment? Did that missing piece of the puzzle keep you from having an accurate overview of what is now occurring? If so, it is never too late to reevaluate the situation from a more integrated and flexible point of view. Remember, Gator's eyes and nostrils are often the only parts of its body above water while it senses its surroundings. Gator integrates all probabilities before it makes its move. All right. Well, thank you for listening and for being here with me and sharing in this space of, growth and humility and well-being and fun and serious play. Alchemy and love always. And just discovery and adventure and this great mystery of being all we are and all that is and all I am and all we are together and individually. So we're all a family, really, interconnected. We all need each other. We're all parts of each other. We're all part of all of ourselves. There are different things, that overlap, but we do have our own boundaries too, and our own right to be in our own sacred space that we do need for our own well-being and our own prerogatives and our own sovereignty, autonomy, greatest well-being, to respect that and honor that for ourselves and everyone that we're in relationship with. And I really want to create that and support that and contribute to that, being in right relationship and creating those pathways that honor and respect and do hold the space for that authentic and honest and connection with that integrity and with that love and with that care that is honoring for self and other. Because there is no separation, but there is differentiation and integration of all these things and a stronger, more well-rounded sense of self, of who we are and who we can be as we are becoming. We're always becoming and we're always arriving. And so I love y'all. I thank y'all. I bless and respect and praise and thank you all. And even those parts that I couldn't accept and that just were undesirable or judged as wrong to be, I actually can make room and space for those parts and for this messiness, of healing and unpredictability and uncertainty. Just letting go with grace and trust and humility and gratitude and excitement for what can be. So, love you. Thank you. Bless you. I'll see you for now. Bye.